Welcome to Mediation Works. I'm Sharon Sutherland. I'm joined by my colleague, Wendy Lakusta. And for this series of Mediation Works, we are looking at happiness hacks. We're looking at little ways that we can all bring joy into our lives. And to do that, we're interviewing a number of happiness experts. And today we're starting off with Lauren Florko. Lauren, I wonder if you could introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. So my name is Lauren. My background is in organizational psychology. And so really what I aim to do is to ensure kind of employee and people sustainability at work, and if that relates to productivity or happiness or well-being at work. And so that's kind of what my goal is. And I'm also a board member on the Core Conflict Resolution Society.
That's great. So Lauren, as our sort of happiness expert, we'd like to start off talking a little bit about happy brain chemicals. You know, we hear terms like endorphins, neurotransmitters, hormones, all of those kinds of things. And those terms are a little bit scary, actually. So we'd like to ask you to, maybe by way of sort of a general introduction, if you could kind of explain them in lay terms.
Sure. So yeah, it is a bit confusing because we have over like 200 neurotransmitters. We have about 100 hormones. And really what it boils down to is just natural chemicals that our body makes. And so sometimes they are created in different parts in the brain or in the pituitary gland, but really it's just a natural chemical that our body creates. And when we're talking about, you know, the happy sources that we have for ourselves, it really kind of boils down to four main ones, which are dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin, and serotonin.
Great. So Lauren, I wonder, maybe we can just talk about those four a little bit and go through each of them, because I know that you see things all the time on the internet, these wonderful, wonderful things that are like, here, if you want dopamine, you should do these things, and this is the way you should think about it. And I presume that's not the way we should be approaching these different chemicals, but I wonder if you can give us a little bit more information, maybe starting with dopamine.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a very common thing. You see the science study where it's like, oh, scientists find out that if you have that one glass of red wine, you're going to get happiness. But it's better to have a better understanding of these four components so that you can really make sure that you're addressing all four. So dopamine is really the reward neurotransmitter. So it's really what you're looking at. It's kind of pleasure and like hedonism almost, if you think about it, but it's not just about getting a reward. It's also about the anticipation of the reward, and kind of the craving is actually will start to release the dopamine. So there's lots of different ways to potentially go about those components.
Okay. So one of the things we were thinking of looking at and had been talking to some folks about is actually the way video games release dopamines, because that's one of the places we keep seeing it, the different studies around video games. Is that the sort of thing that might produce dopamine?
Yeah, the way video games are really good for that, because they've really built in a way that you get rewards consistently through video games, where you can constantly have a goal and constantly achieve a goal. So those are a great way to get dopamine. There's other ways that you can do it as well. If you have your bucket list and you start making strides towards small things on your bucket list, or even if you have a favorite food, and not just going out and buying that food, but trying to make that food and building up that anticipation of making it and then really enjoying it is a really good way to kind of really prolong your dopamine exposure.
And there's been a lot of that in this COVID thing. We've been cooking a lot more. And
I love sourdough, yeah.
I have anyway. I've cooked more, I think, in the last 6 months than I have in the last 10 years. So can we move on and talk a little bit about endorphins? What are your thoughts around endorphins?
Yeah, so endorphins are, you'll hear this a lot, called the natural opioid of our bodies. And so it's really a hormone in our body that helps us manage pain. And so it actually, it really coincides with dopamine, because the more that you can have the pain management, then it allows your body to then actually activate the dopamine. So it kind of will help you trigger, because if you're in pain, it's going to be much harder to get that reward from dopamine. So dealing with the pain management is important first.
So one of the videos in our series this week is going to be focusing on endorphins. And we're going to do that by having a happiness expert talk about nature walks, spending time in sunshine, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great way to go about it. You'll also, when people do much stronger exercise like cardio, where you get that natural runner's high or that exercise high, that's the actual endorphins coming through. And you can also get that sometimes when some people get that released through things like chocolate, or sometimes, some people really like ASMR type videos and they find that really soothing. And it doesn't work for everyone, but that's another way to get your natural endorphins going.
Okay, that's really helpful. And then I guess we should move into oxytocin then next.
Sure, yeah. So oxytocin, a lot of people know as like the love hormone. So this is a natural hormone that comes through our body that helps us create that social bonds between people. And it's similar to endorphins, but it's much more, it's less about pain management and it's more about building those social connections.
Okay. So when we hear things like engagement, playing with your pet, cuddling, mm-hmm. connection, those physical things, are those kind of all in the oxytocin environment? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. So particularly they've found a lot, if you do prolonged eye contact with your dog, that's where you'll really find the oxytocin comes about. Cuddling, hugs, but you have to do the hugs for a good 20 seconds and then you'll feel it. I did this with my stepfather the other day. I made him hug for over 20 seconds and he felt very uncomfortable, but then once you get the clip, you're like, yes, got it.
So when you get past that discomfort, does it actually, it clicks in and is a good thing? Even if you're feeling uncomfortable through the 20 seconds?
Yeah, you'll feel it. It's like your whole body kind of just relaxes a bit. It's really lovely.
Something to test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fourth one is serotonin. Can you talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah, serotonin's really, I would call it the regulator. Right? So this serotonin really helps you regulate your mood, your sleep, your brain functioning, like cognition. And it really, this is an interesting one because even though it's a neurotransmitter, so it's in your brain, it actually gets created in your gut. So it's really important to make sure that your gut microbiome is happy. And so that's making sure that you have, balanced food. You'll see not just probiotics, but you'll see things called prebiotics, which is food that the actual microbiome likes to eat. And then exercise is another thing that helps because it just kind of helps things get moving and going.
So that's really interesting. So I know that we've sort of set up and planned to talk to some people one of whom makes chocolate, and mm-hmm. somebody else who's engaged in work that is around different kinds of vibrations and memories and sense reactions. And they were both telling us that a lot of serotonin kinds of things, not just, but serotonin is one of the things that's produced by those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Lauren, what else should we be talking about when we're talking about these happy chemicals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important to know that you can't just focus on one of these chemicals, right? Because if you're focused on one, but you haven't figured out how you're getting your natural endorphins, then you might be causing that you're not actually getting your dopamine balance. And, if you're constantly in trying to get the dopamine, you're going to be in a constant flux of, craving and wanting and not actually fulfilling with like something like serotonin or oxytocin. So it's important to kind of find that balance, but there are things that you can do that can help create balance between all of them. So, doing those nature walks and getting your cardio and getting that runner's high is helpful and also will help naturally with the serotonin, like the vibrations. And then when you're talking about prepping a meal that you're really anticipating, that's you know, that anticipation, but then also doing the mindful eating while you're doing it. So really enjoying it and making sure it's a well-balanced kind of meal, then you can get your serotonin needs met with that as well. And there's good fulfilling sex is another thing that's also going to be helpful, because you've got the anticipation, you've got the endorphins, and then you've got the oxytocin at the end with the cuddling. So
so really what this entire thing is about is sex is the solution. Is that the message you'd like to leave us with?
I mean, it won't help, it won't hurt.
But not all sex. You could have some red wine.
Fulfilling. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is to truly try to generate all of these chemicals by doing a variety of activities and try to balance it out. In other words, don't just drink a ton of red wine or just stay alone in your place cuddling with your pet. I mean, you want to do a variety of activities.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, thanks, Lauren. I really enjoyed that. That was really actually helpful information, because I honestly didn't know that, this was all going on. So it's, I mean, I knew a little bit. I know about the runner's high and certainly biting into chocolate or looking into your dog's eyes. We've all experienced that. But yeah, that was great. So thanks again. And we hope that everyone can enjoy the rest of our Happiness Hacks series, which is going to be released every day this week. We're going to release a new video. And Sharon?
Yeah, and thank you, Wendy. And thanks, Lauren, from me as well. That was fascinating, and I think a fantastic start to our week.
Thanks for having me.